because Pedro's busy. He's going to be playing Guy Gardner, right? Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Next Issue podcast, live from the last page of the book you've been waiting to read before the end of the year.
That's floral. That is very floral.
That's right. And you
Poetic.
can see here, books upside down. Here's our last show of the year, which is pretty interesting because I don't feel like the year's over. Mainly because who has New Year's on a Wednesday? What the hell?
Christmas was sometime, man.
Way. Yeah, Christmas was the same way where it was like, it's on a Wednesday. So like, it's weird.
Time is a flat circle.
Yeah.
And it's like, and I didn't take any PTO for my job. So I have no, like, all those people are on vacation. They have no concept of what day it is. I just know it's a day that I still have to work for the last couple of days. It was just, It was not fun. It's not a good year.
Yeah. I always worked during the holidays because there was nothing going on. So many people took off. So it was really pretty much just hang out at your desk kind of thing.
That's what I normally do because most of my family lives in town. But next year, I think I'm just going to do the whole thing. I want to bed rot for 2 weeks. Like that's what I want.
We'll hire somebody to go turn Jeff over.
Yes.
It'll be a Patreon exclusive.
Yeah. Make sure you ever seen that movie 7?
You ever seen that old movie?
You ever seen that old movie with all the pine cone?
I need to give that a rewatch. I'm never like in a mood to just sit in that creepy world that he created in 7.
Yeah, no, you like that's not. I don't feel like that's a movie that you're in a mood for, unless you're like plotting.
You should watch that and Requiem for a Dream like back to back because that's a good doubleheader.
I'm never. There's a few.
What a way to start the new year.
We'll start with that.
If you start them at 8:15, by the time midnight rolls around, Brad Pitt opens the box and it's Gwyneth Paltrow's head. So that's how you ring in the new year.
I want somebody to tell me when I have to start Requiem so that at midnight Marlon Wayans is like just like losing his shit in bed as he as he's what's it called, recovering from drugs.
Such a harsh ending. God, that ending is rough.
The worst like countdown because people will have like when Harry Met Sally. Start when Harry Met Sally.
Oh yeah, or Infinity Stone. So like Caps's Avengers Assemble at midnight or something, right?
Yeah. So they have it on. So we need to figure out a list of all the worst things. Like when does Sophie make her choice? At midnight, but you have to start watching Sophie's Choice.
When does Kathy Bates break the ankles?
Oh shit! Yeah.
That's a list I want.
When does the guy fall from the cliff in Midsummer? Like as he hits the ground to make it hit the ground at midnight.
When does Toni Collette just hang there and use the thing to cut her own neck? Just
or when does the car scene happen? So that
when the head rolls.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
So that the cork bottles pop at the same time.
That's a great one.
Let us know in
the
comments.
That was good.
What are movies that you only see that one time? Because Hereditary is that for me. Like and Requiem. Like I've seen them.
Yeah.
I have no need to go back.
I met someone whose favorite movie was Requiem for a Dream, and I was just like, how can you revisit that movie over and over again?
What if there's another one, like a super obscure one that's just super, it's like a musical, it's light and happy, and you guys were talking about 2 completely different movies, but that had the same plot, weirdly enough.
Yeah.
Both starring Jared Leto.
I used to watch like the disturbing film list, and I would go hunt down these films until I watched one that just made me kind of quit doing it altogether because it was just the worst thing I watched, and it sits in my brain. and I don't like
Faces
to
of
talk
Death
about.
3.
No, I watched those as a kid, so those were like, you know, because you could tell like half of them are fake and stuff. But as a kid, you're like, there was no internet, so you couldn't go look for the gore and the weird shit. So it was like Faces of Death was an easy rental, and it's like, Mom, can I have this? Sure.
It's got a lion on it. Must be a Disney thing.
Yeah.
I also want to see in the comments, like, what movie scene do you want to watch at midnight? Like, what is the
What's
thing?
your countdown?
Yeah, alien chest burst at midnight. Artec dies at midnight. You know, is it?
I have one, but you'd have to start it really early, like 3 hours early, because I want it to be Zack Snyder's Justice League.
I knew it.
And at midnight, you see Steppenwolf's head rolling into Darkseid's. Like,
Oh, that's a good one.
but you have to start that like 3.5 hours, probably before, because that's pretty late into the film.
I want to see Cap, you know, when Cap gets Thor's hammer, like that would be a great way to start the new year. And watch the video of people in the theater when they cheer. I enjoy watching those kinds of things.
Yeah, same.
I do too. There's a meme that's like people watching something at a pub with a giant screen and people just kind of green screen whatever they want on it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that one's really
Hereditary.
good. Yeah.
Oh, you know what movie you wouldn't have to start very, very early and you'd get to the point pretty quickly is I want it when Mark Wahlberg says, I think we got ourselves a Transformer here. That's what I want to ring in the new year with.
Oh God.
Or
Mark Wahlberg film.
Oh, what's the name? What's the name of the comedian that blows up in that movie?
T.J. Miller.
T.J. Miller. When that moment where he blows up,
where he's just like a mold of ash.
Yeah.
In the kids movie.
Yeah.
I want the T.J. Miller action figure that just turns to ash.
You can put it back together. You gotta freeze it, and then you just.
It's like one of those ones that you like press the bottom and it completely collapses. One of those little the rope toys.
What is like that kinetic sand, and so you like apply something to it. I think Mother's another film I would never go back and revisit.
Yeah, that's not a good movie.
That baby scene, my goodness.
Train Spotting, when the baby crawls on the ceiling at midnight. How about that?
That one I haven't seen, and I feel like it's a lot of Requiem vibes, and that's probably why I haven't gone to watch it.
Very bad, and it opens rough, so it just goes downhill from.
Requiem at least builds, right? Like you meet a healthy, good-looking little with his friends.
Just the hangout crew.
Yeah.
You guys want to try some drugs?
It almost feels like How High at the beginning.
Wow, where did that script turn wrong?
I know that's what Method Man and Redman were pitching, but they're like, well, we like your idea, but we're gonna go in a different direction. So they just went ahead and made their own movie.
Oh God, that film is so dark.
How High? Yeah, pretty fucked up. They smoked their friend.
No, well, yeah, but then they got to see him again.
Oh man!
If I die, you guys please smoke me to bring me back. Just like in How High.
I'm sorry. I can vape you. I could put you in some kind of diffuser or something like that,
and just turn me into a mist that hangs about.
We'll send your ashes to be made kinetic sand, so we can build action figures with it, or we can have Josh 3D print something. Yes. We'll make you filament. We'll make a little rocket.
That's it.
A rocket out of clay. We'll just have to convince Shelby to release the body.
I'm sure she'd be like, have at
Listen,
it. He told me about this before he died.
Go check out this episode. This is where we have it. It's legally binding.
We'll turn him into like a little Super 7 reaction figure of himself.
Put me in a Folgers can like Donnie in The Big Lebowski.
Ooh, if we hit 100 Patreons, then we can just send out pieces of you.
Oh, there you go.
Monetize it.
Well, it'll be the collector's level that you're buying me before I die, guaranteeing a part of me.
It's called One of Us.
Do you want to see what I scored at Goodwill this week?
I hope it's not Ashes, but yeah. Oh, that's super dope.
Yeah,
That's cool.
I know it's like $3, and I was like, for the art alone.
One of the few games that I actually got all the way through.
Yeah, I think I finished the first one. I'm pretty sure I finished the second one, but I may go back and replay it.
I think I'm pretty much like all of the Injustice lore. I've consumed it in whatever form has come out.
Yeah.
Whether the games, the comics, all that stuff. What else you got?
So this was also a score at Goodwill. Superman Marathon. So what do you think this is?
Superman Marathon.
I hope it's not somebody's amateur home video.
Well,
what year was Viagra invented?
So far, so we started watching tape 1. Someone taped a Nick at Night marathon of the Superman George Reeves show from the very first episode, which I didn't realize has the origin of Superman in it. It is condensed into 22 minutes. It is, yeah. So you get Krypton. They send Jor-El to Earth. They never show his like suit being made. They don't go into the details because they don't have time. It's just basically like, hey, our planet's blowing up. I made this ship. It's supposed to be for everyone, but right now, let's just put the baby in it. And then, but it's recorded from a 1991 Nick at Night marathon. Huh. So it's like all 90s stuff. And it's such a weird vibe to watch commercials that aren't drug commercials anymore. So like you'll like roll out of Superman into some like, you know, snacks or something, Nickelodeon kind of advertisement. But it's kind of fun. So we're watching Adventures of Superman from the beginning.
Nice. Hopefully there's not that many medication commercials on Cartoon Network and Nickelodeon. Get your rolling, kids.
Back in the 90s, it just would have been Advil. That's all it would have been.
Yeah. As kids, we sang Conjunction Junction. As the new kids sing, it's like Ozempic.
I do hate this trend of using catchy songs and rewording them so they can put it on, because then I'm like, well, that's an earworm, but now it's got like the Wegovy or whatever the fuck drug they're peddling, right?
Yeah, I would. Yeah, what is like the worst earworm song that you can think of? Now I'm trying to think of what could be what drug it could sell.
Oh man, I don't know. I like as soon as I see the commercial, I know I'm like, oh, that should have been it. But
that Carly Rae Jepsen "Call Me Maybe" was such a catchy song, and so like I'm going, what drug could you sell with that song?
Oh, they could just make up a name that sounds like "Call Me Maybe," and it'll be like "Wabba-dee-dee," you know, or whatever. It's, you know,
may cause diarrhea or death.
There's not that many. I feel like we got diarrhea pretty good under control. It's just all the other stuff.
Do we? Because I didn't get the memo.
I think there's enough diarrhea drugs out there. They don't need. They sell themselves, if you will. All right, let's pivot here. Let's talk about some of the stuff we've been watching and reading and stuff. So let's start with some watching stuff. And I had a pretty busy week too.
Looks like it.
That's some really, really good stuff. First thing I didn't even put on the list, but I've been watching What If. The last episode's tomorrow.
Oh yeah, me too.
Yeah, we'll probably discuss once it's all done, because I think that it really is like they're trying to tell a full story, but like they also really serialize the episode this season. I feel like most of them stand alone.
Yeah.
Except for like a couple of minutes.
I will say Howard the Duck, not my favorite episode.
Oh, really?
I have a better episode that I enjoyed.
Interesting. Okay. Well,
so we'll discuss. But I'm also not finished, so
yeah. The one that came out today, and then there's one more tomorrow. So the last two are kind of a two-parter. But I on Christmas Eve, I had a lot of presents to wrap, and I was like, "Oh, let me throw on a movie. Let's see what else is, what's new."
That hard,
And I put on Heretic. That's the A24 film with Hugh Grant. about
And
the two what are they called? Kind of, I guess,
The
missionaries,
Mormon
maybe.
kids.
Yeah. Two Mormon kids. They go in to try to, I don't know, recruit them. I don't know what these people do when they go to their house. It was pretty good. It's really interesting. It's definitely like a psychological thriller thing. I think I'll have a full review out of probably sometime this weekend. I have a shot. I just haven't edited, but man, I was not expecting the movie to kind of go the way that it did. But I didn't
really,
really know much about it either. I just knew that it was like arguing it with Hugh Grant. But there's so many interesting things, weird references to pop culture, including the Phantom Menace in it.
sold. I mean, he he went from Oompa Loompa to this, so I'm kind of like curious. Like, is he just picking any role, or it's just such a
So
weird pivot?
he was recently on Smartlist, the Jason Bateman, Will Ferrell. Yeah, no, damn,
Will,
which Will is it? Will
uh,
Arnett.
Will Arnett, yeah,
Will Arnett and Sean
Batman.
Hayes podcast. I love listening to that, but Hugh Grant was on it. And normally when I see Hugh Grant interviews, like he's very cold or standoffish, or maybe sometimes even an
Dismissive.
asshole.
Yeah.
Yeah. A little combative sometimes, maybe, but he was pretty good with this. Maybe because they weren't like doing video or something. I don't
Dude
know.
got caught with a prostitute over 20 years ago. At some point, an interviewer is going to want to ask him, so he's going to be defensive.
Yeah, but he was talking about, like, for such a long time he got pigeonholed into these roles of like romantic comedies and stuff like that. But now that he's older and he's not like doesn't have the leading good looks of a leading man,
He chose Oompa Loompa.
he's like, yeah, he's going for all these other weird kind of roles. And he's
Though,
talked about how much he hated doing that Oompa Loompa role.
oh, see, now I want him to do an Oompa Loompa in a romantic comedy.
Yeah. But yeah, he just wants to do some different stuff. And if A24, like they have a pretty good track record of doing interesting stuff, even if the films aren't always for you, which some of them aren't. Like, you're gonna have something interesting happen, I think.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I really enjoy that. So whenever it should be coming to like actual streaming soon, I just rented it for the day. And it's under 2 hours, which is about how long it took me to wrap gifts because I'm terrible at it. Yeah, I just make sure that one side looks good. As long as one side looks good, where I could put the sticker, everything else
It
can
just
be
needs
like
to be presentable.
That's
The
right.
paper's going to get ripped up anyway. So,
That's right.
Yeah.
I did see like a TikTok concerning that movie where the person in the TikTok was pretending to be the contractor that worked on the house, and he's like, "Wait, so you want me to build a giant maze under your house, kind of thing?" And one room leads to, but they all end up going to the same place. I thought it was very funny without having seen the movie at all. I was just like,
without the context of the movie, I'm guess you that's interesting. But yeah, and it's a very well researched movie. Obviously, has a lot of things to say about religion and a whole lot of other stuff. But yeah, it's very, like I said, it's very interesting. When it comes to streaming, you should check it out. If you haven't seen, there's something that is on streaming. I didn't rewatch it, but it's also pretty cool movie, The Conclave, the movie about picking the popes or picking the pope
"Is that
with Ray
good?"
Fiennes and John
It looks
Lithgow.
like it has like the most amazing cast ever, but movies about Catholicism sound so boring to me.
This one is not.
Unless they're covering up, abuse, then I want to watch like Spotlight to see like that perspective of the church.
This one,
But I wouldn't go to a
if it deals with
theater.
abuse, Clay's in.
oh boy. Here's my pitch for The Conclave. Not only do you have this magnificent talent, this movie is kind of like Mean Girls, but if they're at the Vatican.
All right, that's the pitch.
That is a great
That's
pitch.
the pitch if I needed. Yeah.
So like I said, the talent is magnificent. I think you guys should check it out because it's on Peacock, so like you should be able to watch it. But I didn't talk about it before. Maybe I talked about it when I watched
On
it.
Sundays we wear white.
Yeah. So yeah, go check out The Conclave. I also watched Squid Game 2. I'm like 5 episodes in by now. I went into this like there's no way they can recapture like the first season, but they for the most part they do. They do things a little bit different. I think this season's a little bit more a little goofier in some places, which is interesting because like the show's pretty messed up. But it's fun to kind of they explore other parts of that world now that we're kind of in it, right? And of course you're like, well, why would he ever go back, or why would the main player ever go back? And they make it make sense. So I'm enjoying it. I normally try not to binge things, but I started watching this like when it came out on the 26th, so a couple of days ago. So I'm doing a couple of episodes a day, and it's pretty good so far. Like I said, I'm in episode 5, and they always get you. It's that whole Netflix thing of like we're gonna leave you with the most interesting thing at the end of the episode. So what I've been doing is I just start the next episode, but I don't finish it. I just kind of get the conclusion of where I left off. I was like, this is where you should have ended the episode to actually wrap up the story and not just leave me hanging.
Yeah.
So it's pretty good.
Eat it, Netflix.
There's a character named Thanos. I'll just leave it at that. I don't want to go too deep into it. It's pretty funny. It's really interesting to see because the original one, like I think the creator had done it like for 10 years. He had been trying to shop that show around, but this one's a lot more recent, so he can kind of pick up things from like current pop culture and kind of integrate them into the show, which is not something that probably went as much in. Not as much of that probably happened in the first iteration because you're not going to change the show as much just to include kind of like topical stuff, right? So yeah, Squid Game 2, pretty good. And the last thing I watched, probably my favorite thing this week. Before I get into it, have you guys seen the Robert Eggers films? So he's only done 4 up to now. The Witch,
Lighthouse,
the fart houses, I like to call it.
Yeah, I call it the same thing because I do not like that movie. That's his one movie I don't like.
And then the Northman.
Northman was great.
And then now Nosferatu, which I will say I've never seen the original one. I've never seen the what's the name? Werner Herzog.
You got to see that one, dude.
Version of it. I'm familiar with the story because I think everyone knows the story of Dracula, which is my favorite take on the internet right now. It's like, Nosferatu was alright, but I mean, it's just Dracula. And I was like, yeah, no shit. It's like earlier this week they announced that Christopher Nolan was adapting The Odyssey, and people were like, "Ooh, The Odyssey, what's that?"
How do they not? This is where I'm just like, oh, they're right. School's not teaching anymore.
Yeah.
What is The Odyssey?
Yeah.
Holy fuck!
It's the second book in a series of bangers by Homer. I guess the first two were
Homer
by
Simpson.
Homer. Yeah. I guess the third part of it, I don't think Homer did it, right? Because the Iliad and the Odyssey are by Homer, but somebody else did the one that follows the founding of Rome.
I think
what kind of podcast are we educating the kids now?
That's David McCullough, right?
Yeah. But back to Nosferatu.
This is the podcast that'll bring you literary humor, historian humor.
God, if this is where people are getting their education, I feel very sad for a lot of things. But
listen,
sorry.
Okay,
kids.
So if you want to go watch Troy, Troy is the beginning of the Odyssey. Troy is the prequel to the Odyssey.
Read a book.
Hold on. Let's not get crazy, Clay. Listen to a book. How about that? I'll meet you in the middle.
I was gonna say, I do have to admit, I am reading Salem's Lot, but I just got a great copy of it, and I got the audio book from the library, so I don't have to read, and I can just follow along. So I'm doing the lazy man's reading too.
That works.
If you really want to blow the bros' minds, tell them to go watch "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?" Because that is the Odyssey.
That is.
I haven't seen the movie, but I've heard that. Like people told me, like Christopher, like the Coen brothers already did it. So maybe no one shouldn't try. Interestingly enough, Ralph Fiennes just did another movie called The Return. That it's pretty much he plays Odysseus,
Oh,
and he
really?
got super jacked for it too, like for no reason. Apparently, I don't know if you guys have seen pictures of it. Let me see if I can find an image.
Let's see.
Yeah.
Because
When you're
Ralph
lost at
Fiennes just got
sea.
jacked for no reason. But it's really I want to watch it just because I like. I mean, I think he's a great actor. So, but yeah, he plays Odysseus. I think in this. I don't. Maybe we'll watch it. I'll tell you this. Well, we'll just watch the trailer at the end of the episode. How about that for
Okay.
the return? So I can keep talking about Nosferatu. Um, the movie's dark and it's obviously it does this really cool thing with the moonlight that kind of feels like you're watching a black and white movie, but it's not. There's a lot of rats in it, as I think any Nosferatu story should have. Um, Lily Rose Depp does some like really interesting, weird body horror shit. She plays, I'll forget the name, like Ellen, maybe. I don't know. She's the main woman. If you guys know the story of Nosferatu,
Is
she
that the
plays
wife of the real
yeah, she
estate
plays the
agent?
wife.
Okay.
So I guess who was the wife in Bram Stoker's? Is
Mina?
it Winona? Winona Ryder?
Yeah.
Oh,
Nina.
Mina.
Is it
Yeah,
Nina
I think she
Harkness?
plays
Nina
the
Harkness?
same. And then Nicholas Hoult plays the realtor who goes, God, if my job told me I had to trek for 6 weeks to close on a deal, I'd find another profession.
I do love
Really?
that Dracula, like the all-time, one of the great horror thing is basically a story about buying a home.
Yeah,
You know.
this house is not a home.
Yeah.
Which Nicholas Holt's also fantastic in it. He plays he's the husband, Thomas. Um, but the thing that really blew me away was the design of the Count Orlok. And I don't know, maybe people have different takes on it, but I really liked it. I thought it looked very cool. And I just like the way that you don't really see it for a lot of the movie because it's kind of trying to hold back the mystery. But when you see it, oh my God. So yeah, very cool. And Bill Skarsgård is gone. He disappears. You could have told me that was anybody else, and I would have been like, yeah, I guess like, it doesn't really look like anyone. So
That
yeah,
family was made for creepy makeup.
yeah. I mean, he was. I think he's. Eggers said he got the job after he saw It Chapter 2. He's like, I want you in my movie for notes because he's been trying to remake this for a long time.
Yeah.
So and his voice too, like man, really, like I said, you couldn't even tell that it was him underneath all that stuff. So very cool movie. Great Christmas movie to go watch.
Are there what's the fart number compared to the lighthouse? Are there more farts or less farts?
I'm gonna say not. I don't think there's not no farts. They're just not like the center of attention.
They are at the basis of many scenes.
Yeah. Depends how full your theater is.
I'd love to see Nosferatu claiming you smelt it, you dealt it.
Yeah. There's one character that like, oh, this is probably farts. Aaron Taylor Johnson's in it, and I'm like, wow, you were Craven, and also in this movie, you have range. You have range, my boy.
You were in Craven and this.
Did you change agents in between? Like, how did this happen? There's no way the same person got you both gigs.
He's got Hugh Grant's agent.
Yeah, I guess so, man. But yeah, he's also pretty like. It reminds you, like, huh? Damn, this guy can act. Okay. Craven's probably coming to digital very soon. I'm sure we'll talk about it at some point. I'll make these guys watch it.
Oh Jesus! I can't even I haven't watched Madam Web. I don't want to watch Craven. Like these are so bad. I kind of just don't want to watch them because I feel like it's just a waste of time knowing how bad they
there's
are.
No way. There's not a waste of time. It's fun.
That's what I want at midnight. I want Dakota Johnson saying, "Don't ask me. I have no idea whatever that line is." Where she's like, "Weird shit's happening. I don't know." That's what I want.
At midnight. I want Dakota Johnson opening a Pepsi. What are we? Some kind of Spider Women? God, that should have been a line. But yeah, anyways, go watch Nosferatu. I didn't get a chance to go watch the A Complete Unknown, the Bob Dylan film. I want to watch that as well, but
You know,
I
do
want
y'all
there to be a
care about Bob
sequel.
Dylan?
no, but I like what's his name of the director? It just left my head. He directed Logan and the latest
Oh,
Indiana
Mangold, James
Jones.
Mangold.
James Mangold, yes, thank you. And I know you don't like Timothy Chalamet, so that'd probably be a high barrier of entry. But I can't tell you a Bob Dylan song, but if I heard it, I'm like, oh yeah, I've heard this song.
the opening to Watchmen is a Bob Dylan song.
There you go. It's like I said, I don't know that I can't tell you that it's his song, but I know I've heard them. So I know when I'm at the
You
movies,
recognize.
yeah, when I'm at the movies, I'll be like, oh, I didn't know that was him too. And then so, teach a whole
How many?
generation.
You know what? For a
Have-
guy, he's got about as many movies as like Beethoven does. Not the dog, but the composer.
Those aren't
Bob
the
Dylan?
same. They aren't in the same universe.
Yeah, Bob Dylan, Beethoven, the dog. But yeah, so he's got what's the one where he's like all the different people play Bob Dylan? There's that one movie where a bunch of different
Oh,
actors
yeah,
play
yeah.
Bob Dylan. And then I forget. Yeah, I feel like there's one or two more Bob Dylan movies that are about Bob Dylan.
Was he in the Johnny Cash movie? Because Johnny Cash is on this one apparently. So
I mean, he should be. I think he might have been. I don't know.
I don't know much about Bob Dylan, like at all. So
Yeah,
we'll
it
see.
was all downhill after he went electric. So that's all you need to know.
Yeah, once he switched.
Yeah, once he switched. Once he left New York and moved out to California, that was when it was all over. There is a great Bob Dylan. So I think it was Dave Letterman's 10-year anniversary. I don't know, it was some anniversary, but they brought Bob Dylan out to sing like a Rolling Stone. And this is back when Bob Dylan had no interest in doing anything. Like he was mailing in his performances and stuff. But they had this like super all-star band backing him up. So it was Paul Schaefer and then like Mavis Staples and just like all these super famous old-timey singers, and they're all giving it their all. And Bob Dylan is kind of mailing it in at the beginning of the song, and as the song is going along, he's realizing, oh shit, I am playing like shit, and everybody else is giving it their all. So it's a real interesting performance to watch because he goes through this whole arc of just like, I'm just going through the motions to by the very end of it, he's like playing along with it. Yeah.
He gets into it.
He's enunciating at least every third word by that point.
Nice.
So.
Well, that was always kind of like his thing, right? Like I just like now I'm hearing in my head the times are changing. Now that you've mentioned Watchmen, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's kind of his thing of like,
yeah, he's like Mumbles from Dick Tracy,
well,
but a singer.
I'm that's why I'm interested to see like what Timothy Chalamet is gonna do with like having to mumble his way through that performance, or was that something that he put on for like I've never heard Bob Dylan speak just like normally. So like, does he also just mumble talk or
kind of? Yeah, especially as he's gotten older.
Yeah.
And
And
that's
Timothy Chalamet's from New York, so like they probably have a similar accent or a picture with a lot of the words. So, but yeah, I did see a TikTok of I guess he's doing press for the movie, and he went to a comics or like a collectible store, but they had comics and stuff, and he grabbed a bunch of comics, and I'm like, it's my guy right there. And then he also picked up
comics?
He picked up the soundtrack for Dune Part 1, and I was like, why would you need that? Why do you not have that? Did they not just give you like a care package?
A care package.
I think when they went to the premiere of that Bob Dylan movie, he brought his little what are those little things with the battle spinny things that they have?
Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
Like he had one with him. They're like he brought his thing just in case anybody wanted
like,
to battle.
I don't know, like pops, right? Like you pull.
Yeah.
Battle chasers or something like that.
Yeah.
He's one of us.
Battle dreidels.
I know. Did you guys see him on SportsCenter that one day? He was just calling the pig. He was calling out all the college games.
Yeah. That was a funny
That's really good. That was really good. I don't know what changed in
Quit
his
trying to make him likable. Like
yeah.
someone paid to get him
part of it.
Yeah, like fuck this dude. Like he's entitled rich and he's doing this movie about Bob Dylan, who was a protest singer. Like Timothy Chalamet's just some rich entitled fuck who's like looking at this as like a story to tell as opposed to a person. And I'm not a Bob Dylan fan, but
what? unlike a lot of these nepo babies, he grew up in like the projects of New York. He was just a regular kid that stumbled into acting. So I give
That
him a little bit
stumbled
more
into
reason.
he given Wonka without an audition, dude. And how many roles had he had before that?
I mean, he had Dune under his belt, so that feels pretty high already. He did Little
Dude.
Women. Little Women with Greta Gerwig. He had done a lot of movies by then, I think. He wasn't just I don't know that he was just giving Wonka.
I know, but it's like a starring singing performance, and
Yeah.
he just kind of like just what I saw of it was just dull. I don't think he's talented. I don't think he brings anything to the table that's interesting or that anyone wants to watch that isn't like a 17-year-old girl.
That's because you haven't checked out his YouTube channel where he mods Xbox 360 controllers.
Oh, now that would be fucking legit to see if he
He
was
did
really
that.
doing it.
Like that's what he
Get the
used to
fuck
do. Man.
out! No.
And here he is,
Yeah.
TimotheeChalamet. Welcome him to the show.
Right. Yeah, right. Welcome to the stage, our first guest.
Yeah, I shit on him, but here, welcome him.
He's from that generation where like YouTube was a thing, so like that's what they were doing before you actually get into your career, I guess. And he just happened to go into acting. But
so I want to watch. So now I want to see a movie with him and like Henry Cavill just nerding out about nerd stuff.
Oh my god, yeah, that'd be cool. Just building. They don't have to be a movie. Just build a computer or something, and then TimotheeChalamet can be modding the 360 controllers.
Just like
See,
what
I'd
it was
rather
like.
see I'd rather see Cavill and David Harbour talking about Warhammer because they're both Warhammer fans. David Harbour's like paints the miniatures, just a show where they sit down to talk like First We Feast, hot ones, but they paint, and so they just talk.
That'd be fun.
Yeah, that'd be cool. But all right, that's enough about what I've been doing and watching. There's more stuff probably, but I forgot. A lot of movies I still want to watch. I still haven't seen Sonic 3, and I'm very upset. Piano's in
You
it.
sound like a 6-year-old when you say that. I haven't seen Sonic 3, and I'm very upset.
No one's taking me to go see Sonic 3 yet.
Imagine you're a kid, and the only Jim Carrey you know is from Sonic.
Hey, that's the role that brought him out of retirement twice.
Yeah, and he said, I needed the cash.
I would just say. And in this latest one, he plays he plays two characters, so
yeah, I did see that.
So
he's fun no matter what. So it's I would kind of want to watch those just to see him.
Those are interesting. Like they're real. I think they're fun.
They're not bad. They're not bad movies.
Yeah, I don't think so.
They're pretty entertaining.
You could watch worse video game based movies.
Oh, definitely.
Doom, Lara Croft,
Pixels.
Pixels is fuck. God.
Pixels is probably one of the like at the top. Because as bad as Mario Brothers was, like I love that movie just because I was a kid when I first watched it. But Pixels was like, no, sorry, Adam Sandler.
Well, yeah, so that first Mario Brothers at least has the charm of being like such a bad movie.
Yeah,
and it's like charming in its own little way.
Dennis Hopper is in that movie.
Yeah, the choices in that movie are batshit insane.
Some kid's gonna go, I love this villain in this movie, and then he's gonna go from Dennis Hopper in Super Mario Brothers to Blue Velvet, and it's gonna break his brain. And I'm gonna be like,
Yep.
I love kids that are gonna be discovering like the weird bits that actors did from like kid roles.
Yeah. So what else has John Leguizamo done? Let's see.
Violent Night, Spawn,
Romeo and Juliet,
House of Bug.
Yeah, Baz Luhrmann's Romeo and Juliet.
Speaking of Moulin Rouge,
Clay, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you've been watching?
I watched Violent Night. I have my whole holiday film fest going. We did Violent Night, Die Hard 1 through 3 only. We stopped
right. 4 is a 4th of July movie. That makes sense.
Yeah, and then Home Alone, Gremlins, and so that was pretty much Christmas Day. Christmas Eve to Christmas Day was all those movies.
I watched part of Die Hard 1 because they were just on TV, so I had them on, and I watched 3 pretty much all the way through. What a great pairing those two made.
Perfect. Yeah.
It's so good.
I love that. On Max, there is a DC documentary from France called, well, I say DC, but it's DC influence, called Supervillains and Investigation. Have you guys seen this? So it's a look at the supervillains in comics, and it's heavily commentated. I say commentated. They interviewed Mark Waid in it a lot. So there is a part of it that is in French, and if you're like me and you failed French and you don't know it, they do have subtitles. So and it's only through some of the commentary, but a lot of it is in English. I'd say like 60% of it's in English because of the people they're interviewing. And it's neat to see a guy or just the writers break down the villains to essentially of what they are. Yeah, that's it.
Dun, dun, dun.
Oh, all
So
villains
he said,
too, not just DC villains.
Yeah, it's not just DC, but I felt like it was heavily influenced. But Mark Waid is like the best in there because you'll be like he'll just break down villains with a sentence, like he knows them that well, and it's so great to see a guy's mind who's been in comics for that long just break a villain down to their essence of who they are, and he does that with the Rogues Gallery in Flash, and it's so great because he's like this. They were created in the 50s. There's someone who represents Gardner Fox and his estate and the history of comics, which is kind of neat because it was his biographer that she talks about his influence of the comics in that day. But like the Rogues Gallery being influenced by the Atomic Age and their look and how they're all just kind of bank robbers. That's their kind of bit. They don't have like any kind of deeper meaning to them, but they're fun. He said that's the best thing about the Flash villains is they're fun, and that's what I've always loved about them. But to see him break it down was the best part of that show. So I really recommend that.
That sounds cool, actually.
Yeah. And then just some Superman on VHS.
Superman amateur stuff, huh?
Oh my gosh. That would have been even funnier, but it was really neat to revisit because George Reeves was my first Superman. Like I discovered Superman on TV before I was reading the comics because as a kid, like when you get home from school, there was a lot of programming just set up for you. And so there was a Superman, Batman back to back. So I would go in George Reeves, Adam West, and it was just the funnest thing for me. And then when I discovered comics, it was like, oh, they write about these guys?
It's the guy from my TV.
But yeah, that's all I've been watching.
And how's the reading of Salem's Lot?
It's pretty good. I got an edition. Let's see. Hold on. That came out a few years ago called an illustrated edition of Salem's Lot. So it has a lot of additional material and like it has artwork and notes and things that were edited out from the original. So when I'm listening to it as an audiobook from the library and then following along in here, and it's interesting because there's stuff that is on the audiobook that has been changed. So I kind of follow along in here. And then it's like it's just little minor details. So I go, why did they change this? What's the importance of this? But yeah, Salem's Lot.
Do they have any illustrations of what the spoilers, I guess, for Salem's Lot, the vampires look like?
I haven't gotten to one yet.
Okay,
but I'm going through the book page by page. So
I'm interested because in the latest remake, the 2024 one, it's very Nosferatu, like the original Nosferatu, like bald and stuff like that. So, but I don't know what they're described as in the book originally. So,
not like Nosferatu. The Nosferatu idea came from the TV movie,
okay.
And so that's the original, because you'll see that in the poster for Salem's Lot, the TV movie. Then in the sequel, or in the 2004, they used Rutger Hauer. So they had somebody who was a little more eloquent and could talk and was very verbal and stuff, but he's only in a few scenes, so they don't really maximize the use of him in those. But going back to the Nosferatu makes a lot of sense because it makes him look old, decrepit, and just like he's turning into an animal.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense, especially with the the idea behind Salem's Lot too. Yeah.
I have never read this.
Oh, that's a big boy.
Oh my gosh, Grant Morrison! I'm just like almost halfway through, and this is just the funnest book. Like, I love him playing in the universes like this.
That was intense. I don't think I've ever read that one either.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But those are the only two things I'm reading right now, but fucking fantastic.
Nice. All right, Jeff, what do you got?
I've got a couple of questions for Clay real quick. Does the Salem's Lot Illustrated Edition have a drawing of the lot?
Not yet.
It's got to connect the dot.
Just a big
because the whole beginning is just about the Marsden house, so it's like they talk about it from the jump. So it's like, but there's nothing sketched out in it yet.
Nice. Also, when you were talking about the Mark Wade being in the documentary, my brain went Dwayne Wade, and I was like, oh, interesting. I don't understand what he has to do with comics. I mean, he's a comics fan, and then it kind of caught up, and I was just like, oh. But I kind of like living in that world where they interviewed Dwayne Wade, basketball, former NBA All-Star Dwayne Wade, about comic book villains. Like,
well, you have to do something after retiring.
Right.
He pitched DC a series, and now he's writing The Flash.
Exactly.
Dwayne the Wade Johnson.
I didn't really watch much. I didn't have much time this week to get out and watch. But my family during Christmas tried to convince me. Some of them tried to convince me that the Netflix movie CarryOn was a good movie. I'm not convinced. I didn't get through
I
it.
also
I didn't
tried
even
to
finish
convince you last week, I think.
I was so bored. I thought that movie was so dumb. I don't find Jason Bateman intimidating or scary at all. I don't understand why he's having like full conversations with the bad guy, like in front of him. And then he's like the whole premise is like, we know who your wife is, your pregnant wife, we're going to kill her. So you got to let this nuclear bomb or whatever get through the thing, get through the CarryOn X-ray machine kind of thing. Yeah. The scanner. But then like midway through the movie, he has like these full on conversations with Jason Bateman. He meets up with his girlfriend. Like at no point do they ever try to like get out. It's not I was just so like confused. I'm like,
what do you mean get out and let everyone else die? Jeff, you monster.
I'm just saying I felt like there were other options. A cousin of mine was like, oh, did you hear he was a track star that's gonna come back later? And I'm like, yeah, I know.
Yeah, I mean, we did see the news that Netflix executives are making sure that the writers have the characters say a lot of the things that are happening out loud, so that when you have the movie on in the background, you're still caught up with the film.
That is a fucking weird way to write a movie.
Netflix just invented descriptive audio.
It's so stupid.
They re-stumbled upon it.
I was not impressed. I did not finish it. I left.
I disagree with you vehemently, Jeff.
Midway through the movie.
This is where the podcast splits. over CarryOn on Netflix.
So leave a comment. Did you love CarryOn? Is it your favorite new Christmas movie? Is it your new favorite Christmas movie? Does it beat Die Hard?
I was seeing a thing that they're like, the algorithm definitely tells you like, oh, we need to make sure that people put this on at Christmas. So let's start with the first scene which could have happened anywhere. It'll be in a Christmas tree lot, like sales lot, right? So yeah.
That was So the first scene is Jason Bateman killing another bad guy, and like he's obviously buying whatever it is, and then he shoots it. There's like he burns down the Christmas tree farm or whatever, and I'm just the whole time I'm like I don't. That scene is put there to be like, look at how badass Jason Bateman is, and I'm just like I don't feel it leaving that scene. Like I'm just like okay, whatever, and then the whole movie just gets more boring from there. So. Then it's like 45 minutes of talking. The only thing I wanted was
you must hate phone booth.
I've never even seen phone booth. So now
Clay,
I know
you've
not
seen
to
phone
watch
booth,
it.
right?
Yeah,
I like it.
I mean, it's wild how much because it's Kiefer Sutherland on the other line, right?
Yeah.
Like that. He does. It's weird that he's so good at like keeping him on the phone like that. I don't know why.
Yeah. So.
I think maybe I just watched too much Arrested Development for Jason Bateman to be scary.
You need to watch Ozark to change your paradigm of what he could do first, and then
But that's what my cousin said too. They're like, you got to watch Ozark because then you'll understand
and
how
you can give
scary
him a
he is.
chance, or just listen to Smart List to see how mean he is to Sean Hayes.
So that's the other thing. I also find him like, I don't ever find him mean. I just find him smarmy, you know?
Yeah. Oh God,
And
they
kinda-
just go at each other so much.
Season 5 Arrested Development is mean Michael. It's weird.
Yeah.
It's like that whole character just changes in the last season.
Is that
Yeah.
the Netflix season?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
I'll just roll into it because that's all I mean, I watched a bunch of like Christmas classics. I
Well,
also watched
before you do into
Gremlins.
comics, so what happens at this family gathering for Christmas? What do you have any specific? Do you do stuff on Christmas Day, like on the 25th?
So yeah, so the day before the 24th is the tamale making day.
Yes.
So there's the 23rd they go out and get all the stuff. They prep it, and so the 24th everybody shows up and they're the ones spreading the masa and they have all the pots and pans going and stuff. And then the 25th we do like traditional ham pot roast meal, open gifts for the family, stuff like that.
Open tamales.
And then to open the tamales. And the
Mm.
tamales are just like you just snack on them whenever. Like
Every
they're
yeah, for days.
yeah.
Because we do our main dinner on the 24th, and then we do like, well, some people do like a rosary. They pray for a little while, and then we open the presents like as we get to midnight, and then on Christmas Day we just kind of come back to eat leftovers, whoever's around or whatever. So we don't our Christmas the celebration, I would say, is the day before, but I know that's not what a lot of people do. Clay, what do you do over there?
We meet over at my mother-in-law's and just kind of, she always like, well, I'll have a gathering at a little get together of some food, and then we come over and she'll like do a whole spread. So it'll be like
on Christmas Day though, right?
No, just before Christmas.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's just whenever, like I think we did it last Thursday, and so
so you get out of the way to make sure that Christmas is just available for.
Yeah. So, and then, Shelby and I we've been broke. So what we do for Christmas is we we take $20 to a store, and then we both go in and just find stuff for $20. And that's how we do Christmas. And so we went to Daiso. Yeah. So it's like a Japanese store that's here in Dallas. And so just bought a bunch of fun little things for, so much money. And that's how we do Christmas.
Nice. I like Daiso. They have it's like it's not like a dollar store, but it's almost like a dollar store.
Yeah, because prices are kind of fixed on the stuff
stacked,
that's in there. So there's I got like a lot of snacks, and I bought her like different Hello Kitty stuff, stickers, just not going crazy, but it's neat to have some stuff to open on Christmas morning, and that's just all we do.
I saw people were doing like, instead of getting like, they would do white elephant, but instead of getting like presents for like each one bring something, they would go to the post office and buy undelivered packages or whatever, like just
I saw
random stuff. I don't know. That sounds neat. Might try that next year. We'll see. We'll see if I can talk my friends into it. Maybe we can get stuff we like, or we can take a gamble with these returned items from the post office. So, all right, back to comics.
Back to comics. Okay, so I just have a smattering of things. So my comic shop did not get the full order this week because their box of comics got sent to Virginia.
So
I'm
she has all the comics now?
So yeah, Virginia has all my comics. So I didn't get any of the DC or Image stuff that came out this week. And there's a lot of DC stuff that came out this week. But
not only that, we're all like a day late getting our stuff because obviously Christmas, like, the shops were closed.
It'll be a day late next week too. So because maybe, I don't know. Are they?
I don't know if shops closed for New Year's. I feel like a lot of them take advantage to do a sale or something.
Maybe they're open then. So I did read this Daredevil 16. This is Daredevil has been haunted by the seven sins. Yeah, whatever. And the The Aaron Cooter artwork is great, and
Ooh.
Bullseye gets his arm ripped off in this issue, so
Whoa,
it's pretty violent.
pretty intense.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
This is Exceptional X-Men number 4 that I read. This just came out this week. This is my favorite X-Men book, I've decided. And this made me laugh so hard. Kitty Pryde is living with a roommate. She wants nothing to do like with superheroics or anything. She's very traumatized from her time on Krakoa. But so she's living in New York with a roommate who's human, but knows Kitty's a mutant. And prefers that Kitty uses keys instead of just phasing into the apartment because she says as boundaries. But there's this part in here where Kitty is just like, keys are so stupid because she has to fumble with them. And it just never dawned on me how Kitty would be so annoyed by having to use a door because she doesn't need to use one.
Who's writing that?
This is
Jed McKay?
No, this is Eve Ewing.
Oh,
Eve L. Ewing.
Oh, Eve Ewing. Okay, yeah. So Gail Simone is the other book. Okay,
yeah.
Gessimone's the other book. Yeah, but I was just like, oh, that is so genius and funny. This is the Jed McKay X-Men book.
Okay.
Yeah.
Book, the Gray Malkin. This is jarring because it's got 2 artists. The first artist is Federico Vincentini, who's a great artist. And then midway through it switches back to Ryan Stegman. It's just very jarring. But it's fine.
nice.
Amazing Spider-Man number 64, the 8 Deaths of Spider-Man. Still very confused as to what's going on with the creative team. Because this started, and I feel like there's a little bit of a bait and switch because I feel like it was promoted as Joe Casey, Ed McGuinness. Here's this 8-issue story arc, and they did 2 issues. And then the last 2 issues have been written by Justina Ireland and artist Gleb Melnikov. Gleb Melnikov's a good artist. You know,
They have very similar styles. Ed McGuinness and Gleb both do like these really beefy characters.
but I don't know why. I was just like, why did you promote this thing with 2 issues and switch it off? Joe Casey, I read the letters page. Joe Casey's supposed to come back next issue.
Yeah.
But it's still not Ed McGuinness art. So I don't know what's going on over there.
Okay, because I've been getting those from my comic shop because they had Scotty Young covers, and so but 63 I believe didn't have one, so 64 I got, and it had a different creative team, and I was like, wait a minute, this was a Joe Kelly book, and they're relaunching it with Joe Kelly, right? Aren't they relaunching this Spider-Man title?
Yeah, I think so. Number 1's going to be with him.
But then if he can't stay with a regular book and they have fill-ins on an 8-issue story arc, why would they relaunch a book and give him the title? That seems weird. I mean, Joe Kelly's great, and he's like, but if he can't keep up, he can't keep up.
I bet they planned this 8 Deaths of Spider-Man, and they were like, oh, maybe you should launch the next book. And so they had to divert his attention to that. But they had already talked about this 8-issue run, so they're like, well, we got to finish this so get somebody else. And Justine Ireland's been writing a lot of Mary Jane, if I'm not mistaken. So like it's somebody familiar with in the Spider-Man office probably. So makes sense. And like
they double Marvel the way.
Yeah.
Double Marvel method.
Gleb Melnikov, like I said, very similar to McGuinness. So
yeah, the art's fine. I mean, it's not I wouldn't call it a drop off. It's just weird to me that you advertise something like that and then pull the rug out. And it also, I'm just kind of like I don't know what's going on behind the scenes, so I don't want to say anything like, oh, these guys can't do.
Let's speculate wildly.
Yeah. But it would like just for somebody who has Disney money, I'm just like, get your horses in order before you go to press. Like.
Well, then that would mean you have to pay your creators fairly, and I don't think they're doing that. So,
even with Disney money, The City Beneath Her Feet. This is great. James Tynion, Elsa Chartier, Jordi Belair, Aditya
Bidikar.
Yeah, all-star team. Distillery, super expensive book, but good, worth it. About I don't even know what it's about, honestly, but I liked it.
That's a solid lineup of creators.
Yeah. I'm also I talk about this. This is Jenny Sparks, book 5. My favorite part of this book is they show where Clark Kent and Bruce Wayne show up to recruit Jenny Sparks to be like, hey, if we ever go rogue, we need you to take us down, kind of thing. She's like, sure, no problem.
Jenny Sparks was the spirit of the 20th century. How is she alive now?
I think they haven't gotten to that part yet. They keep hinting at it.
They're going to address it. It's Tom King, so I think he's got a plan.
Because Jenny Quantum would be 24 going on 25 right now and should be the star of the Authority.
I don't know. I'm not familiar with any of that Wildstorm shit.
Well, I am, and I have, and that was the big thing with Jenny Sparks is she was supposed to expire at the end of the millennium because a new Jenny would be born, but here she is running around 24 years later. So, like, maybe I know they're just retconning it, but I don't understand why they don't just use the Jenny Quantum. Maybe it's not Jenny Sparks. I haven't read it. I've only read the first one, so I don't know.
So he shows up as Clark Kent, and Batman or Bruce Wayne shows up in his Matches Malone persona. But they go to this diner to talk to him. I don't know if I can get this, but so this is this is Bruce Wayne.
Yeah,
and you can see him eating a hamburger with a fork, which I think is just the funniest damn thing that you could do for Batman. Like for Bruce Wayne to eat a hamburger with a fork is the.
Well, now I want to know if that was on the script or if that was a choice by the artist.
That's a choice.
Don't know.
That's a choice.
I feel like something Tom Kidd would do too. I don't know.
Why would Bruce Wayne eat a hamburger with a...
No, Bruce Wayne eats a hamburger normally, so Matches Malone has to eat it a very weird way.
So it's just a character development.
Yeah, I think Bruce Wayne eats a hamburger with a fork, and he just eats a hamburger with a fork.
Master Wayne, fork and knife, please.
How does he eat pizza then?
From the
also
back?
with a fork, probably.
From the back.
I've seen people eat, I have a friend
from the back
who uses I have a friend who uses fork and knife for pizza.
Sure. Josh mentioned this last week. But I'm gonna stand in defense of this. Josh was not super overwhelmed by it.
Josh.
But here you've got Godzilla attacking France, and he gets his foot caught in the Arc de Triomphe, which I think is genius.
Oh, that is good.
And so he trips and falls. And then later, a few pages down the road, they use the Eiffel Tower to electrocute Godzilla. So
that's pretty cool.
That is cool.
I'm just gonna say this book is awesome.
Does that top does using the Eiffel Tower and the Arc de Triomphe, does that top Godzilla curling up like a kitty in the Coliseum to take a nap?
I think it does.
That was good.
I think so. It's close. They're all kind of on the same line, but I would like to see Godzilla interacting with more just big spots, big tourist attractions,
Take a dump in the Grand Canyon.
I was going to say parkour through the Grand Canyon.
Oh, parkour. I get it.
And say parkour while you're doing it.
It's big enough. He could do both.
Take a shower in Yellowstone. Just wait for one of those geysers.
Go make out with one of the presidents.
That's where he takes a dump. Okay, yeah. We solved it. The Yellowstone bidet.
Wait for that geyser to shoot.
The ninth wonder of the world. What else, Jeff?
That's all I got. That's all I got for this week.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, let me talk about comics. Let me talk about some of the things that are not. So this week, interestingly enough, I didn't get to read any Marvel stuff because I didn't get to go to the shop till yesterday, and Marvel doesn't send us stuff in advance, so I can't read it. I know Marvel's. Come on, talk to us.
Marvel.
I did pick up Marvel comics though, but I didn't really get to read any. But so I'm trying to finish off my best of 2024 comics list. And I went online and started to look like what are some of the things that are on these big lists that I should look at to try to get to read them. So I read a bunch of things last weekend, or mainly things that I had already started. And then I was like, oh yeah, this is on a list, and this was pretty good when I read the first issue, so maybe I'll go back and finish it. First, I read Plastic Man No More, 1 through 4. Josh talked about it last episode, and that got me going. And I think I talked to you guys on Discord about it. I really enjoyed it. I think maybe more than Josh. I know Josh was a little bit let down with maybe how it wrapped up, but I enjoyed it. I thought they did some really weird, crazy shit um, with Plastic Man and the relationship with his kid, and Plastic Man just trying to solve his problem in the most roundabout way. I think the use of both different artists for different circumstances in the story are really is really fun. And yeah, I like it. I think it was a really good comic. I don't know if it'll end up on my best of 2024 list, depending on how deep we go. I have a short list of about 13 to 15 things right now that I'm still trying to cut down for whenever we do our show. Um, so we'll see. Uh, Another thing that was something that I had already started reading and I saw on a bunch of lists was Dawn Runner. This is a Dark Horse comic. It's only 5 issues by Ram V and art by Evan Cagle. The collected edition actually came out this week. If your comic shop was open and order it, and it'll be out in bookstores like I don't know, sometime soon. I think it's a couple of weeks after the comic shops, the bookstores actually get it. This is a book where there was a tear in space or in time, whatever, and pretty much these creatures started coming through it, kind of like kaiju creatures, very similar to Pacific Rim. So the world develops their own fighting machines, and this latest one is the Dawn Runner. So it's a lot of like there's a lot of Pacific Rim in this book, but where it takes a twist is where this pilot, as they try to connect with the machine, they start seeing some things, and they start like it's kind of a trip down this. What has this corporation done to achieve this technology? But it's beautiful. Like it's displayed in the most beautiful way. Evan Cagle's art is fantastic. Like some of the fights that we see, it's like no dialogue for a couple of pages, and it's just them
Wow.
fighting and the monsters and the things going at it. So it's really good. This one might end up on my best of 2024 list for sure. Um, Another thing that I have been wanting to check out, and I shared this with you guys, and I hope you guys eventually read it. Judge Dredd: A Better World. This is a collection of the Better World story from the 2000 AD magazine, where Judge Maitland, so one of the other judges, they have an idea to take one of the sectors, and instead of using all their funds to fund the police force and the judges, she wants to divert some of those funds to education and services for the people. And maybe that would better. Yeah, I know. What a fucking
It's so
novel idea.
progressive. Could we do that in Texas? I mean, Jesus Christ, that sounds like what's happening here.
So, but obviously, this is Mega City One, and there's people that don't want that to happen as the experiment starts to actually be successful. So yeah, it's really cool. It's a really obviously very poignant and timely read.
Mega City 1, Austin. Mega City 2, Houston.
Yeah, where are the mutants? West Texas? I'm just kidding. You in West Texas, we love you. Or at least we have no opinion of you.
We have no opinion.
Yeah. But it's really good. It's only like 60 pages because it's like 10 chapters that are collected, and they're about each, I don't know, 6-7 pages each. But it's a really good story. So like if you guys want to read it, like I said, it's on our folder, but the collection should be out.
Ooh, okay, good.
It's weird because the collection usually comes out first in the UK, but then that also means you could probably buy it digitally through the 2000 AD store, and then it comes out here in the US. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I'm glad that we work with a little bit with 2000 AD in like, because I get to check out their magazines, and there's some really fun stuff sometimes, like just random stories. I want to read. I didn't get a chance to read it before Christmas, but there's one where Judge Dredd has to, and Santa Claus, something happens. I don't know the idea behind it, but I'm excited to get into that one. So
he's a lawbreaker, that Santa.
Yeah,
he's gonna have to pay.
There's one more comic I want to read. Hopefully, I can get that done this weekend so I can actually finalize my list.
Oh, real quick, that Judge Dredd that you read, is by Rob Williams, who wrote Petrolhead. That we
Petrolhead,
were a big
yes.
fan of this
That's
series.
why I originally wanted to read it. Because I saw that Rob Williams was also doing that. Because jumping into a Dredd story is kind of daunting because there's so much of it, right?
Yeah.
But this one's good because it's not about Judge Dredd. Judge Dredd is in the story, but it's really about this other thing. So it's a good way to kind of roll in there. And then let me see the stuff that I actually read from DC. Because I like I said, I didn't get the chance to read Marvel comics, but Detective Comics 1092. This story is really good. Tom Taylor is really killing it on this. I'm really enjoying this. Whatever this idea of Bruce Wayne taking this drug to maybe make him younger again and like revitalize, like seeing an aging Batman story is always kind of fun because he deals with it in different ways in all these stories.
I do
Also,
like. I've always enjoyed, as somebody who's had a knee blowout back when I was in high school football.
Ooh, ow.
I've always wanted to. I'm like, why don't superheroes ever blow out their knees? So when this storyline started with Batman blowing out his knee,
yeah,
I was just like, finally, are you kidding me? Yeah.
he jumps into the car and he just listen. I haven't fully blown it out, but I don't have a good knee either. I'll tell you that right now. So also picked up read Absolute Wonder Woman #3. There's some really cool. This is a cover by Ariel Diaz. She's a local artist. She's
Nice.
at all the shows, and then this is the main cover. But it's really good. This continues to just be amazing. And when I'm doing my list for the end of the year, I don't know how I'm gonna pick between these absolute books because one of them has to end up on it. I just don't know how I'm gonna pick. There's something really cool revealed in this issue about Wonder Woman and the sacrifices she's already made, and the threat of this creature that's coming to the city. So very cool. Justice League Unlimited #2. We get to see pretty much an infestation of parademons on Earth, and that's always cool. Like, especially when it's drawn by Dan Mora. Like, just I don't know. I love his art. It's so good.
Dan Mora.
So good. There's this really cool panel of Jaime Reyes being like dragged away by these parademons, which just I don't know. I really love how that whole thing plays out. Yeah, this is really fun. I really like it. And then I think that's about it. Like I said, this is a light week in comics for me. Actually, I only picked up 5 comics for this week. I haven't read the latest Moon Knight, Fist of Khonshu.
Yeah, I haven't either.
Good. And then there was this new comic called Hell Hunters, and I saw Wolverine and Nick Fury, and I don't know. This is Bucky, I think.
Is that Helverine in it?
No, Hell Hunters.
Oh, I thought it was the Helverine was getting a new book.
No, there is a Ghost Rider here. Helverine did get a new book last week, but there's also a Ghost Rider here. So I'm trying to figure out how that is. But as long as we get a nice book of Nazis getting their ass kicked, I'm always on board to check it out. So that's pretty much it. I'm really. Let me see if I have. I had, like I said, I had a short list of the stuff that the best comics, and I just don't know. Oh, I did also read The One Hand and The Six Fingers. That's another Ram story. This is from Image Comics. They sent us their big trade, which I think also came out this week. But this is a comic that, do you guys remember when we read The One Hand #1 for a review, but we never went back to read The Six Fingers?
Yeah.
The way the trade collects it goes #1 and then #1. So it jumps back and forth between both stories, which is the way you're supposed to read them. And it's really cool. Like, if you remember the premise, this detective is about to retire, and this one, this murderer or a murderer strikes again with a similar MO to like somebody who he had already captured multiple times. But when you get to the middle of the book, the story takes like this weird twist on it. And I'm talking about like issue 2 or I think maybe 2 of the second series. It's bonkers. It's insane. You guys should read it. Like I said, the Image sent us the preview. It's on box, and it's like It's like 300 pages, but it's so much worth your time. I read it like in a day. I couldn't stop. I needed to get to the bottom of the story. And my buddy Mike from the I Read Comic Books podcast told me that they're doing another story to kind of close everything out. So this is a self-contained story, but then we get to see a little bit more of that world. Maybe that comes out in 2025. But I love that I love that the collection puts it in release order because that's the way it's meant to be read. You're supposed to read one perspective
okay.
and then the other, because you guys know DC and Marvel, they suck at putting events in the right order when they collect them. They just put them out like, here's all the Spider-Mans and here's all the whatever. So this
Good
does a
luck.
better job at that. I also read Ice Cream Man number 43. That is the one that has a bunch of one-page stories by a lot of creators, including Grant Morrison does a story, Dennis Camp does a story, Zoe Thorgood, but they're all drawn. I think for the most part, most of them are drawn by Martin Morazzo, who's the Ice Cream Man artist. I read it and I was like, damn, this is already on the. This doesn't come out till next week, so I was like, this is going to be on the best of 2025 list. So. And I started reading Ain't No Grave, the Scotty Young comic, because I also saw that on a few lists. It's good, but I'm gonna pivot away from it. I'll come back to it. I don't know that it would be on my list at the end. And the last thing I want to check out before I finalize my list, well, like I said, was Hexagon Bridge and Helen of Windhorn. I need to finish Helen of Windhorn. But yeah, we'll be talking about our favorite comics pretty soon. Hopefully next week. We'll see. Just depending on make sure everybody gets to come back. So
I also started kind of like contemplating what my favorite comics of the year were.
It's hard because you're like, I mean, we read so much and then we're like, is this from this year? I don't remember. But yeah, I mean, we're pretty flexible with our list. If you read something from a couple years ago and you finally read it now, or if the collection came out this year or whatever. So yeah, stay tuned for that. And if you want to tell us what your favorite stuff was, make sure to go fill out our survey. We got about 20 responses already. We're gonna close that out next. I had said originally 31st, but it doesn't make sense because our show's not till the weekend, so we'll close it out till Friday before the show, which would be, what is that? January. Where's Calendar Man when you need him?
Yeah, no. That is a
January 3rd, I think. So, all right, that's enough of me talking. We have I guess there'll be a little bit more of me talking. Well, do you guys have any last things on comics before we move on to a review? Any books you still want to check out before the end of the year, like in the last few days? Anything that you're like, shit, I didn't get to that? No? Okay. We'll talk more about comics of 2024.
I've read everything.
Oh, damn. Jeff's up to date. He's the only person in the world up to date with his comic books.
I read all comics, 2 stars.
Yeah.
They're all fine. God, I hate
I do have to read. I did see that they're releasing, I guess it's an animated Nightfall, Batman Nightfall, the whole thing.
Oh, wow.
And currently I have the 3 Nightfall editions propping up my laptop computer so that you can see me perfectly. I've not read them yet, but I need to
That's what it was intended for, I think.
Yeah, right now. These 3 volumes of Batman Nightfall that I need to read.
Alrighty.
I have 3 books, but they're 2 Howard Stern books and Alice in Wonderland holding up my monitor. So
Howard Stern's an interesting choice to hold up your computer.
They were thick books, and wasn't going to get much for reselling them. So,
well, we always have. I guess we don't really get the yellow pages anymore.
Yeah,
I wonder when that stopped. I don't even know what year was the last time.
You can still request a yellow pages. I looked this up the other day out of curiosity. You can still request one, and they will send you one, but they don't just give them out anymore.
I miss the days when I would step out of my house and almost trip over because there was a giant book left on my doorstep. Yeah.
Sometimes 2 or 3 of them. Like
2 or 3, yeah, because they had the white pages and then the business one, or There was always
That
like a little extra one.
Yeah.
the what is it? The white pages or the business edition?
White
My
page, yeah, because white pages is for people, right? Like
yeah.
regular people. The yellow pages was for businesses, but then there was always another one that I don't even know what it was for, like a companion and an addendum to something. I don't know.
But
Just
no,
the others.
my grandmother worked for Southwestern Bell and was an editor on the white pages. That was her job. So she would edit that before it would go out, and she had such good benefits that when she retired, that they paid for all of her medical until she was like 93.
Wow.
Yeah.
I like
We don't
that.
live in that world anymore.
We don't live in that world anymore. I know it's wild, but I was just thinking
Yeah.
about like how long she had been retired from them and how long they had paid. But yeah, she edited that book, and so it was interesting. I'd interviewed her before she passed about like the job she works and growing up and stuff, and she talked about or just editing the white pages. That was her job.
Oh,
for
that's right. You interviewed your grandma, huh? For like a
Yeah.
few things. Yeah, I remember you were talking about that.
Yeah, it sucks because the recording is really bad, so you can't hear as much. But I just learned a lot about my grandmother and growing up and just wild stuff. You know, she
Very
was
cool.
93 when she passed in like 2019. Yeah. And she talked about like Rowlett was just like this horrible town where when you rode the train through Rowlett, you had to get on the ground because people would just shoot at the train.
Were they trying to stop it, like in that movie with the runaway train?
No, she just said there was just a lot of crazy people, a lot of wild stuff over there.
Well, I mean, there's still a lot of crazy people in Rowlett.
Very
To
much.
be
Yeah, I mean, it's still Texas. What do you?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, it's not like it's special crazy. It's just general crazy, like the rest of it.
right?
It's our given right to shoot at trains.
I think geographically it works because I feel like Texas is the perfect blend of Florida and California. Like it's just both right in the middle. That's where they meet. We
A little
got
bit of
just enough Florida man to make us crazy, and just enough
Yeah.
hippie.
I
Yeah,
can't believe that Alex Garland saw that and he's like, yeah, they would make an alliance. All right.
What are we talking about next?
All right. We have a comic review, but I want to see. Claire, are you going to need to step away?
Yeah, I am going to step away.
What time? What do you think?
At about 12 or 11:30.
Okay, so let's do the comic review first, and then that way you can step away as needed. All right. So we're going to be talking about an upcoming book, and it's going to be a non-spoiler review because this doesn't come out, apparently. It doesn't come out till February, apparently. But we got an early advance copy, which I was looking at it. The what do you call it? The pitch for this, not the pitch. Whatever. The information
Premise?
about this says that it should be 48 pages.
Yeah.
But the version we read only has 33 pages. So I wonder if there's something left off in this preview version.
Interesting.
But the way that the last page reads to me, unless there's some kind of epilogue, feels like that's where they meant to end it. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a whole bunch of extra back matter on it. Either way, thanks to our friends at Image for sending us a preview copy of Bug Wars. This is an upcoming book from them by Jason Aaron.
Yeah.
With art by Mahmoud Asrar. You probably seen a lot of their names in Marvel books more recently. Matthew Wilson and Becca Carey on letters. Matthew Wilson doing colors. Let me give you a quick synopsis for this, and then we'll talk about what we thought about this book overall. In this book, Slaymaker, great name, is a kid from Alabama suddenly lost in a vicious world beyond his imagining, a world of marauding armies, spellcasting spider witches, and beetle-riding barbarians. A kingdom of tiny but deadly warriors hidden in his own backyard. The same world that saw his father eaten alive by insects now plunges young Slade into the middle of a brutal bug war to decide the fate of his family. So let's talk about Jeff. I want to start with you. Why did you pick this book? Because you're the one that suggested we do this.
I saw it in the folder as potential things that we could look at. Immediately, I thought of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids and Sectars, which is kind of what this book is.
Yeah,
Yes.
It's sort of like, I would say it's more like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids meets Ants, but So just the cover alone on it, I was just like so curious as to what it was. Jason Aaron writing, so you can't really go wrong with that. And then it turns out I loved it. I know it's still a couple of months away, so I don't want to get too far into it. But it's got enough of a mystery, this kind of like high fantasy kind of vibe to it. But then you realize, you're just shrunken tiny, and you're dealing with little ants and stuff. But I love how it puts you in this world, this kind of fantasy world of like the Beatles and stuff. And as the reader, I'm starting to realize I'm just like, I think they're just in the backyard of something. And then it kind of pulls out, and you're like, oh, that's what this is. And because they kept talking about the far out lands where the possums are. And I'm just like, that's probably, where the woods are or whatever. So, kind of thing.
Where the trash cans are, yeah.
Where the trash cans are. Yeah. So it's that, it's super, it's kind of, sometimes it's what you expect it to be, but then it kind of unfolds into this bigger mystery that you get. And so it hooked me. I loved it. Artwork's great. Jason Aaron's writing. Yeah, I think it's great.
Yeah. Clay, what about you?
Jason Aaron, that's when you had me, because I was like, I'm super excited for this. And then he's like writing barbarians and stuff, and I'm like, perfect. This is exactly a Jason Aaron book. And then you read the dialogue, and it's so good. But then he puts this like twist of the family and from the family, to the backyard, and then gives you this great horrific scene. That one horrific scene that affected his brother was like the best page of the book. And I was like, holy shit, that'll fuck you up for a while. And then all the battle scenes. I mean, it's like the art is fantastic. Like, this is a solid home run first issue.
Yeah.
I agree. I really liked, right off the bat, they're not messing around with the dialogue. It tells you immediately, like, this book is going to go hard, right? You see Bugs being split in half. And I think it's funny, right? Because you see the little barbarians riding the Beatles, but then the ants also look like ants, like the ant people. It's like anthropomorphized ants, but there's also regular ants.
Sectars. So like, that's when you said sectars, I was like, I forgot about them.
Yeah. I think they just did, if I'm not mistaken, this is a slight tangent. I think Oni Press. Maybe Oni Press. They just did a Sectar book, right?
Yeah.
A comic recently. Because I was like, I remember seeing this cartoon, I think, as a child. And maybe it's Mad Cave. I don't sorry for getting them confused.
Does it Narcel have the thing for Sectars now? They're the same people that have
so you're right.
All those the biker mice from Mars, and
it's Oni.
It is Mad Cave. It is Mad Cave then. If it's part of the bikers from Mars or whatever, like that whole
I thought I could be wrong. I don't know.
Well, I guess I'm just looking at a YouTube video that says Sectars #2 review Oni Press.
Oh, maybe it is Oni.
Oh, maybe it is Oni.
We love. Well, I love both Oni and Mad Cave the same. So like they keep sending me stuff to read. But you're right, Clay. Like it feels a lot like that. And I'm interested in the mystery. Obviously, there's the whole exploration of the family trauma that we're still gonna go through. And it's really cool.
The big question is, what would cause Bugs to do that to a human being? Right. That's the thing that I want to know.
Right. Especially somebody that feels like I don't know if Bugs can tell like that somebody's caring for them, but feels like that's the way it was. So I think there's a little bit more to that story. Maybe there's even more a little bit to like everything that went on with the dad and all that. So
definitely.
The thing when the mom mentions that she's going to her second job, I was like, oh my God, this is gross. But and then of course there's the whole thing with I won't go too deep into it, but there's obviously the brother that feels very different from our protagonist. So I'm excited about this. I can't wait to really dive into it when it comes out.
Also, I'm now super curious about the mystery pages, because at the very end, it does feel like it was leading to a time jump, because there was at some point the narration says, well, that was then, and then it kind of hits the cliffhanger a couple of pages later.
Because like I said, when I was doing the research for this and trying to get the synopsis and all that, it listed this book as 48 pages, and obviously the credit pages were missing from our thing, but I feel like there's either like maybe a prologue or an epilogue or like just some back matter that we didn't get in this actual in this advanced review, because sometimes we don't get, these are not the final versions of the book, but it will usually say that, and I don't think this one did. So I'm interested to see how that goes out. But yeah, go to your shop right now. I think the cutoff date for this is like January something to order this at your shop. Which, you know, what is it called? First
Final
order
cutoff date.
cutoff? Final order
cutoff.
cutoff date is pretty important for comic stores. So, and the success of a book as well. This is how they know, like, whenever you hear that a book goes to second print on the day that it was released, is because they have all those numbers from the final order cutoff, and they know how many are out there, and they know the demand. So, yeah, if you want to see more of these books, make sure you pre-order them. All right. Any last thoughts on this? Cool.
Go put it on your FOC.
Go tell everyone, and pick up that beautiful Peach Momoko cover. Look at that.
Whoa! I didn't see that. Awesome.
Oh, that is nice.
Yeah, these I got online. These were not a part of the preview.
This might make you think twice before stomping on a bug.
It might. So, okay.
All right,
So let me if you need to step away, or just step away, I guess. Jeff and I have nothing to talk about.
But we're just gonna sit and stare at each other.
We are a staring contest. I did want to go. So earlier, hold on, let me get some of these things out of my screens are all over the place right now. Earlier in the year, we did a little thing where we drafted movies individually, and I think I'm looking at the list right now. The last movie has released. I can't believe nobody drafted Mufasa, first of all, but I had Sonic the Hedgehog, which released on December 20th, and Josh picked Nosferatu, which released in Christmas here. So we are all done for this as far as like all the movies are released now. We do have.
We got to give it a couple of weeks to let Sonic and Nosferatu gain all their money.
Right. That's right. And then the last of the bad movies. So your last movie was Wicked, part 1. And then Clay's last movie was The Wild Robot. And then we also had that other list of bad movies that we like was competing against us, like the computer, I guess. That was Kraven the Hunter. So that'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to put these all together early next year when we're doing.
I'm still waiting for my Kevin Costner movie to make a big comeback. They never released the second part of that, did they? I thought it was split into 2 movies.
I think it was going to go straight to streaming or Max or whatever, something like that. I wonder if we can actually, if that movie lost money, do we just take that away from your Wolverine Deadpool money?
Or my Wicked money? Which one are you going to take it from?
I feel like Deadpool. I think from your list, Deadpool Wolverine had the biggest. So here, let me see. I can actually pull up your movies while we talk. So you had Thelma, which was smash at the box office, I'm sure.
That might make it on one of my best of movies list.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Then you had Horizon, an American Saga.
Oh, so good.
Wild Choice. Maxine. Twisters, which
that's right. That's a big one. That's a big one for me.
Deadpool Wolverine. And then Wicked Part 1. So I think your last 3 are a lot stronger.
I got I've got you can't have an all-star team. You just gotta distribute these things around.
But I mean, you did have the first pick, so that really put you. I think that Deadpool Wolverine had you really ahead of the game, especially because here's mine. So I had the anime Haikyuu, the dumpster battle, which I don't think that made a lot of money. Quiet Place Day One, another not very good. I mean, the movie itself, I don't think was bad. It's just theatrically.
I feel like you did
Uh,
okay though.
yeah, yeah. I think just not as good. Well, wait till you see the next, not the next one, but I also picked Trap, which I think
Okay.
that did okay. Alien Romulus. The one that really bit me in the butt is Joker Folie à Deux, because that was my second pick. That was my first round pick. Um, and
It's a
you let me
bust.
tell
It's a
you,
bust.
that's yeah, injured in week one, right there.
Blow. There's the blown out ankle.
But I do have Sonic the Hedgehog, so maybe Sonic can take me to the promised land. Let's
I'd be
see.
curious to find out what didn't get picked.
That made a lot of
That
money.
that made a lot of money. What we missed out on.
That'll be
What went
interesting.
undrafted.
Yeah, let's see. Let's check out Josh's list. So Josh did really well to start with. Inside Out 2. The fabulous
Yeah.
then he picked the Fabulous Four, which I don't think anyone saw in theaters. He picked Borderlands as well, which is really
Oof.
funny. I still haven't seen that movie, and I don't think I ever will. We'll see.
Yeah.
Maybe one of these days I'll be bored and it'll be on TNT.
That's what it means, bored. Because when you're bored, you just got to go
Bored,
to the Borderlands.
Borderlands. He also had Beetlejuice.
Pretty well.
Which should be all right. Gladiator 2 should be. I think that one's doing pretty well as well. And then Nosferatu, which, if you believe my hype, people should be flocking to the theater. I'm in a pretty good place with the algorithm on TikTok, whereas like every other video is like a Nosferatu thing, like an interview with the cast or something. So,
Nice.
oh man, Clay's list. It's a little sad. Uh, Bad Boys Ride or Die, which I think that one made some money. Despicable Me 4, which I'm sure that also made a bunch of money.
I think that did pretty well.
Yeah, he picked Long Legs. This is one of the movies that I haven't been able to finish just because I'm so freaked out by it. I got through like 2/3 of it, and there's a scene that I'm like,
Long Legs.
yeah, Long Legs.
Okay, Long Legs.
It's a Nick Cage, Neon. I think it's Neon. Harold and the Purple Crayon with renowned Zachary Levi, who has another movie coming out soon, if not already out. That was wild. I think I just saw like not a trailer for it, but like a preview, something for it. It Ends With Us. That's the wait. Which one's
that's the one that's the Justin Balladini.
Oh yeah, that movie was full of controversy.
It still is. He got sued. He
You're
got
right.
dropped by his agent. All kinds of stuff.
I wonder, maybe that made some money for a specific audience. And then the Wild Robot. I can't even. I mean, Despicable Me must have been the first round for Clay. All right, and then for bad movies, and I'm looking forward to doing this with a 4-year slate, and then a bunch of comic book movies next year that we actually will have, as opposed to just the one this year. Or I guess two of them this year. Two really big ones. So the bad movies we picked in A Violent Nature, Young Women in the Sea. That's the Daisy Ridley swims across the ocean movie. I Used to Be Funny. I don't even know what that is. Firebrand. The Bike Riders, which I don't know why we put that in the bad movies. I think Clay and I really like that. I don't know if you've seen it.
I haven't seen it yet.
That's the Tom Hardy biker
Bike
gang
ride
movie. Last Summer, and then Kraven the Hunter. So.
Oh, what a time! What a time to be alive!
What a year in film. I think putting together a list of movies, best movies of 2024 is going to be a lot easier than comics.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I'm really bad at remembering what I've watched, so I need to sit down and like.
You need a letterbox, son.
That's what I probably need to do.
Keep your letterbox updated. Clay, we were just talking about the what do you call it? Oh, our draft for the movies.
Oh yeah.
Look, I'm gonna be pretty honest. Yours isn't looking so great, Clay.
I had Minions though, man. I thought the Minions would do it for me.
Yeah, that's probably if I mean, granted, I already had a few too as well that are not.
We were never going to defeat Inside Out 2. Pixar is a monster.
Machine, yeah. So we'll see. All right, we have a few things in the questions. We have some questions on there. So, Jeff, why don't you hit us with your first one since
I wrote those. He didn't.
Well, the first one I think was from last week, right?
Yeah.
And then Clay we can go into your questions.
Which one am I answering?
The one from the top one.
The Superman.
Yeah.
Who's my favorite Superman artist? My one favorite Superman artist. This was a tough question.
Not one, but like if someone references Superman as a comic book, who's your default?
Oh, you wrote
artist?
that. You wrote all the questions even last week. Clay,
Yeah,
that's what you're saying. Gotcha.
Yeah.
I have a whole list, but I'm going to list one as my first, as my number one, and that is Frank Quietly. Frank Quietly is generally who I tend to think of, because he does the big bulking Superman kind of thing, but yet somehow he still looks realistic enough, I guess. And
human.
then he also human, yeah. But then he also does a great Clark Kent. It's still maintaining that giant shape, but he kind of hunches his back a little bit, and he kind of looks like this weird, meek, giant, hulking thing that just doesn't know how big he is as Clark Kent. And then as Superman, it's almost like that clip of Christopher Reeve doing the hunch and then standing up to really Superman kind of thing, but like in drawing form. So it's so cool. It's just so cool. So he's my number one. And if you guys don't list any of the others, I'll go back and say who my others are.
Okay. Clay, do you have anybody?
It depends, because like if you reference Superman at a time period, if you said like early Superman comics, I think it's Kurt Swain. But like if you do 90s Superman, it's Dan Jurgens.
Yeah.
You know, because Dan Jurgens, Superman. that was like the house style of his Superman, you know, in the 90s. And then he had Superman mullet, and then you had Electric Superman. So
the Superman as well, right? Superboy and Cyborg and Eradicator, all that.
I mean, I guess for a long time it was John Byrne, but I think Dan Jurgens really he just did so much during that time period that it just dominated. And I totally forgot about Frank Quietly. Like, I don't know why All-Star Superman isn't in my head, but I guess it's I'm thinking of stuff I grew up with and at the time period. And even maybe after 2000, it might be Jim Lee. I just see his covers, his Superman.
John Byrne did make my list as well.
Yeah.
So for me, one of the ones that I read the most, he did the Superman Batman series with Jeff Loeb, Ed McGuinness.
Yes, he was in my head and I fucking forgot him.
He's like, especially that what is it? Most Wanted, I think that's the story that they started with. Public Enemies, thank you. Which was adapted into a really cool animated film.
So fun, so good.
But McGuinness, like I said, has those big, bulky bodies, right? Everybody looks pretty strong.
I was gonna say, here's my Nightcrawler, Ed McGuinness.
Yeah.
On the wall.
I'm looking through a list that CVR put together of 10
so Ed McGuinness is on my list. My other two were Alex Ross and Jeff Johns. And Johns was the last. Not Jeff Johns. Not Jeff Johns, the writer. Who am I thinking of? Who did the Watchmen?
Gary Frank.
Gary Frank.
Frank. Oh yeah. He has perfect lines.
That makes sense. So on this list, we have some more modern. This was from last year, I think, this list. So they have Dan Mora. who has had a really long run on World's Finest. So I can definitely see him being the people's Superman. Mikel Janin as well. I don't think he's drawn a lot of, but he did that. Oh, you know what? Because he did that whole Philip Kennedy Johnson War World saga. Say that 10 times fast. So that's one that I haven't read much, and I think that's why I didn't even think of Mikel Janin. It's just modern.
Well, I don't think of him because he's hardly in the Superman suit at all in that whole story.
That's true. He's usually bare-chested Conan-like.
He's very bare-chested Conan in that series.
I do want to read. Man, I should go back and read that.
It's good. It's really good.
Yeah. Daniel St. Pierre, who's currently doing Wonder Woman, did a long run as well on Superman with Kennedy Johnson. They have Patrick Searcher. Feels like they're just kind of going back through the last few Superman artists.
Yeah.
It's just like
Patrick Searcher also. Okay, then we have Frank Quitely, Gary Frank, Patrick Gleason. I do like. I like.
I do love Patrick Gleason's art.
Yeah. Ed McGuinness, Rags Morales, who I think when the New 52 kicked off. Yeah, that one's not my favorite. I actually like. George Perez did Action Comics for a little while when the New 52 kicked off, and actually have a Action Comics number. I think they renumbered it for a little while. And I have.
I do like George Perez's Superman.
Yeah. I mean his art in general, but yeah, you're right. Like Clay said, Dan Jurgens, like Superman for the decade. Like it feels like they would bring back Jurgens, and they still bring back Jurgens every once in a while to like either write or draw or both a Superman thing, right? So yeah, pretty cool. Pretty cool. All right. Clay has another question, and I need to step away for a second.
Oh, okay.
So I'll let you.
I'll take over.
Okay, here. I'll
hijack the show. It's Assistant Editor's Month now.
Dun, dun, dun.
No, when we first started the podcast, we had like an origin episode where we talked about like how we got into comics and what were our first comics and stuff. So, like, do you remember the first comic you read or bought?
I do vaguely. So my very first comic that I distinctly remember having, which was a comic that my mom bought for me. It was Daredevil 223 from June 1985. It is the Secret Wars 2 tie-in. We were on I don't remember where we were going. We were going on vacation somewhere, and my mom stopped at one of the bookstores in the airport, picked up this comic. She knew I liked comic things. She was just like, just something to occupy him for the plane. Here it is. I did not read Daredevil.
I know this story too.
Yeah. And so I had no idea what was going on. I just flipped through it. I had no idea who the Beyonder was or whatever. Because at that point, I was pretty much in on like Super Friends and the Amazing Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends and that kind of stuff. Yeah. And I would probably pick up a random, not knowing what it is, comic here and there. And so, but this is the first one I distinctly, because I had to carry it with me on the plane. And then and I was just like, I don't know who this guy is, but I'm going to learn about him, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so from that point, it's kind of, I go back to being sporadic. I don't remember anything about comics until I pick up Captain America 339 from March 1988, the same month that Iron Man 228 comes out. I loved Captain America. I had a friend that lived across the street from me who bought comics, and Captain America was kind of the first. He would let me read them, and Captain America was the first one I kind of got into. And we would ride our bikes down to the bookshop, and that's the first one where I was like, this is what I'm buying monthly, Captain America and Iron Man. At the time, Steve Rogers had just been kicked out. He was the captain wearing what is now the U.S. agent costume. And Tony Stark Iron Man was going through the first Armor Wars.
Yes.
So that first Iron Man book is the crossover kind of issue, which is kind of the genesis of the Iron Man versus Captain America kind of thing that's been set up from that point forward, is when the kind of the first time they have a philosophical argument kind of thing. So Captain America and Iron Man were the first two comics I collected from that point forward. So yeah, those are my first comics. And I didn't know I know nothing about comics getting into it. So like, I would from that point forward, I'd sporadically buy a bunch of different comics. I tried reading The Dark Knight Returns, loved it. I read Dark Knight Returns and I loved it in trade form. I also picked up Watchmen and Camelot 3000. I was way too young to read both of those. Watchmen, I was too young. I was just bored with it. Like I had to wait a few years before I could get into it. Brian Boland's Camelot 3000. I thought it looked super cool. There were boobs in it, so whatever. I got into that one, but again, I was probably way too young to be reading something like that.
Well, that's wild because if you got into comics like the year before Watchmen, Dark Knight Returns, like 1986, and the change of the comics tone, that's so wild.
Yeah, it was an interesting time because everything was pushing dark. So all my friends that were into comics were like super into like Punisher and Wolverine and stuff. But I was kind of like coming in from this like, I love Superman and Captain America, and like the guys that didn't change to make that dark turn kind of thing.
Well, didn't Cap leave he left and became Nomad for a while, didn't he, during that run? I thought during the 80s.
So yeah, so the Nomad stuff I think happens in the 70s. But then he comes back to being Captain America, and then it's a Red Skull thing. Red Skull takes over the commission for Superhuman. They kick Captain America out, and that's when he becomes the captain in the black suit. Okay. And he runs around. This is where we get the introduction. We get D-Man for the first time, and
D-Man.
Yeah.
Nomad started in 74. I'm like a whole decade off.
Yeah.
But I thought he was more. I remember him more from the 80s. So I just remember that storyline of him almost being like Bruce Banner in the Hulk TV show. He's like always on the road.
That's how I love my Captain America, because he was like ever since
going
the
across
Brubaker
America
run. Yeah. Pretty much since 9/11, he's been much more political of a character. And definitely since the Brubaker run, that now all Cap stories are just like, unless you get Mark Waid or somebody, like all his
Rick Remender.
All the stories are like government conspiracy things.
Yeah.
That's why I like this most recent Straczynski run, because again, it was just Cap going across America on adventures and stuff.
Because I remember Rick Remender having to take over for Brubaker, and he was just like, you can't outdo what he was doing in that, so he just took him to Dimension Z. So it was like, if I just change it up, I can write whatever I want, and no one's going to compare it to the great political story that Brubaker was telling.
Yeah. That Remender.
That's what Lansing and Kelly did with their Captain America run. Let's follow Remender.
Oh, they did.
They put the whole circle thing back together or whatever.
That's kind of what they did with Guardians. Is they like had this breakaway story where they're all like changed and different.
Yeah, yeah. I think they just want to. Like you said, they want to stand out and make it different from what the status quo is. With two different effects. Sometimes like the Guardians run that didn't work for me, but the Cap stuff was pretty interesting. So
yeah,
cool. Was there I guess this is for both of y'all, because I don't think I know this from Daniel, like your first independent book. What was like a non-Marvel, non-DC book that you guys picked up and you remember it vividly? It was like
that's pretty easy for me. It's I Kill Giants.
So good. Joe Kelly.
Yeah, Joe Kelly again. I remember borrowing that from Hoopla. Just I want to read a comic, and I was like on Hoopla to seeing what they had, and that was recommended. I don't know, maybe a collection had just came out recently, or they were working on the movie, or whatever the case was. I started reading it. I couldn't stop till I got through all 7 issues. Like it's still one of my favorite independent comics of all time, which was such a disappointment when the team reunited in this whatever detective story. What's it called? Something Bad Sergeant, something like that. I remember, like, it's a recent book that they both did, and I did not like that one at all.
Really?
Yeah, that was a shame. But yeah, that's it. It's I Kill Giants.
Jeff?
I liked how you. I like the what was the first Image comic, and I was like Spawn, because we were around when it started.
Yeah, we were around when it started.
I picked up all the first runs of all the Image comics. I wish to God I still had my Spawn #1, but I do not. But I have my Youngblood #1 if that's ever going to be worth anything.
I got one in the quarter box the other day, so they're still in demand.
Worth at least a quarter.
Yeah. My first, I guess, indie non-superhero thing that I really kind of blew me away. I didn't really think about that because it's hard to remember, but it's probably like Blue Monday or Hopeless Savages. One of those. Those are from the early 2000s. I tried to think back further than that. Yeah, it was early Oni, Sin City,
and China Clungston Major.
Yeah. Sin City, early Dark Horse Sin City stuff.
Yeah.
The works of anything Andy Watson did, the British cartoonist Andy Watson. All that stuff was like early, just indie stuff where I was just like, oh, superheroes could be much more. Matt Wagner stuff, especially his Mage series. That Mage series really stood out to me.
Yeah. And then he did Grendel. He did a Grendel Batman crossover. Yeah, those were like my first indie stuff was Eclipse, because I didn't Eclipse was always at the local Dallas Fantasy Festival, and I was like, well, they weren't up there with the Marvel books at my comic shop, so I'm like, what are these books? And so it was like Airboy and just stuff that they were pulling back, and they were also doing Miracle Man at the time. So Eclipse was like the first thing I saw that was like, oh, because Airboy had been a comic like in the early days, because they'd even had like the Heap, which had been created in like, I believe 1940. So that predated Swamp Thing and Man Thing as the big swamp creature. Wow. And Timothy Truman, I think, was telling all the stories. The art was great. And the comics, I think, were like 25 cents. They were like really cheap. That was their selling point, because they were like very thin. I think maybe 16 pages. But
okay.
Yeah, and I just remember the people who are publishing were easily accessible. So like as a kid, you think, oh, they're giving me attention. You're just like, what books do you do? And so you're just excited to see, they're publishing stuff that I want to read. And so I'll just go gather up everything. So occasionally I'll find some old Eclipse books and just pick them up because they printed whatever. It was wild until they went bankrupt.
Nice. All right. Well, we have. I know Clay, you have more questions, but I think some of those can be full topics if we really flex.
Oh yeah, I was just throwing out stuff just to know when Jeff started and like some of his early books and stuff like that. Because I think we had a whole episode where we all talked about our early stuff, and I just don't know Jeff's comic early history.
We'll need to have a full Jeff episode in 2025 to get to know the man, the myth, the legend.
Well, my birthday's in May. We'll do a May birthday.
May spectacular. All right. Spectacular. Well, to close out the show, let's watch this trailer for The Return with this jacked Ray Fiennes. He who must not be named. All right. Let's see.
Why does a priest have to be jacked? I don't understand that.
No. The Return is the Odyssey story.
Okay.
The Conclave. The Conclave is they might be jacked under the robes. I don't know what's under there.
Those robes are heavy.
Boys.
Yeah, there's like armor. Oh boy. All right. Let's check out The Return. The trailer for The Return.
Our king Odysseus.
The
smartest of all the heroes. He led us for 10 years in the Trojan War. Before his brilliant plan to build the great horse, the Trojans thought it was a gift and took it behind their walls. Then out poured our soldiers. Odysseus.
Spoilers for a 3,000-year-old war.
Victory. People love stories.
Oh,
you were there.
I am Odysseus' wife.
Odysseus is dead.
Not to me.
There was no king. He sailed to Troy years ago. Took the best men with him.
All year, suitors have been turning up, waiting for his widow to choose a new husband to be king. Scoundrels. They're just here for your wealth.
Look at this island. A wasteland. Gangs of thugs terrifying the people.
They need me alive. At least until I choose my husband.
Mother, we can't live with those savages anymore.
I will choose soon when I finish my wedding cloak.
No one was making a fool of you, of us all. I know who you are.
A tramp!
If I were free, I'd fight for what was mine. I'd fight for my people. What will the people say when they see I have returned alone? That I led all their men to their deaths?
This land is ruined. I sacrificed it for him.
I have a proposal for you. Hunting party. Where is he? Who are you?
Your waiting is over.
I like that this is the dark,
The one
realistic,
amongst
gritty
you who can string
Odyssey.
the bow and shoot the arrow through the axes. That man will be my husband.
Close the gates.
How can men find a war but not find their way home?
Some war becomes home.
Give the man the bow.
I mean, honestly,
Damn.
that's the end of the Odyssey right there.
Yeah.
You just see the end
I'm
of
no
the Odyssey.
historian, but I think that's how the movie.
That's
ends,
pretty much the end of the book. He comes back and he's like,
Mm-hmm.
got to kick all the suitors out.
It gave
Shoots
me
the arrow,
Northman
wins.
vibes.
Yeah.
North,
Good luck topping that, Christopher Nolan.
Yeah.
Especially because I think Tom Holland's in the cast, so I don't know how young this Odysseus is gonna be. I'm not saying he's gonna be Odysseus. I'm just saying.
There's like a little, so there's a character in the Odyssey. So when Odysseus comes back, he's trying to hide his identity, and like there's one little kid that recognizes him, and he's just like, and then he kind of becomes the in between Odysseus. Like
so
he
maybe
becomes like the guy that's like, yeah, I'm who I'd guess would be Tom Holland would be, I guess.
Well, now I'm a little curious to see, and we'll get out here in a second. I'm curious to see what the letterbox rating on this movie is. Because I had heard very little of it. I just saw a video of Ray Fiennes like working out or something. Because he overall he looks pretty.
what
jacked.
were you searching for?
It was on TikTok. I don't search for anything, Clay. The algorithm just provides.
You need to see this guy working out.
It's
just him and
3.1.
J.K. Simmons just doing reps in the gym.
Yeah, I mean, if I want to see JK lifting weights, I could just watch Red One.
Nobody needs to do that.
It's a 3.1 on Letterboxd, so that's not too bad. It feels the movie itself though feels a little small, maybe because I don't know anybody else other than Ray Fiennes that's on the screen.
Yeah, it feels very indie.
Uberto Pasolini is the director. They haven't done much. Still Life and Nowhere Special. Yeah, I don't really know these films. I don't think he's from America. But I don't know. This the first review. This would have gone hard in 8th grade history class after a slice of square pizza for lunch. 2.5 stars. You know what? I agree. This is something that they kind of, well, maybe not. This might be too violent to put on grade school.
We all watched that Romeo and Juliet, and those kids were underage. So
Yeah.
Yeah, true. Wait, which one? The Boss Lerman? Is that the one?
No,
there's
the
there's one
70s.
before that. There's one from the 70s.
We're older, so we get the 70s version. In fact, Olivia Hussey, the woman who played Juliet, just passed away.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, we watched we watched Stand and Deliver. Yeah, Stand and Deliver. Is that what
Stand
it's called?
Deliver.
The Edward James Olmos
Yeah,
film about the kids trying to pass AP exams.
Yeah.
That was the subtle way for the school to tell us, like, hey, you should take the AP exams. So, all right, there it is. The best way to end 2024. Now with a bang, but with a cold, wet fart from Bleecker Street.
With Ray Fiennes just cutting people's throats.
Ray Fiennes, man, you know what? I'm gonna go. If this is streaming somewhere, I'm gonna watch that movie. It looks interesting enough for me to throw it on. I just hope it has enough descriptive audio text that I could be doing something else at the same time.
So you should watch Troy, then watch that Coen
This-
Brothers movie,
Oh,
and then
brother,
watch
where art
this
thou?
one. Then watch Oh Brother Where Art Thou, and then watch this movie, and then you will have
Man.
the full context of the Odyssey.
I don't need any more excuse to rewatch Troy. Plus, it's always on TV.
Yeah.
Now I'm curious if Netflix remakes these movies, do they just add additional descriptions into the dialogue so they can describe what's going on?
I've never heard that. The only time I hear some of that audio assisted, the visual description, is when I'm watching TV like USA Network and my parents or somebody left the channel in Spanish. Sometimes they don't have Spanish. Instead, they just have the descriptive dialogue. So it's like Detective Benson enters a room and bong bong. So,
Bong bong.
it's a lot of SVU. But yeah, there you have it. All right. Next week, well, actually, make sure to fill out our survey. It'll be in the description of this video. We'll talk about some of the results there. And then next week, we're planning on doing best comics of 2024, providing everybody's on the show. So the next few weeks are going to be comics, movies, TV, and then we'll do our show.
Podcasts, movie posters,
dishes, restaurants,
favorite Ozempic commercial.
That's right.
Drone sightings,
alien interviews.
That's right. Yeah, we'll see. It'll devolve. This show is going to be listicles every week. So. All right. Thanks for watching, everyone. Yeah, get that survey out there. And where is my outro? God, one of these days I'll have it ready. I promise.
I thought that they gave you an outro option in the video clip to where you could load it there.
Listen, Clay, how dare you?
Great to be alive in 2025. We're coming into this new year polished.
Right. Yeah, right.
Well-oiled machine.
Throw me back in the little rock tumbler for a while. I'm not there yet. All right. Bye, everyone.
See ya.
The most important thing in life will always be
El Bebo.
Peter loves you.